Welcome. You're tuned into Tangled Threads. If you're digging our content, hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you. It all started when my wife, Jenna, casually mentioned the idea of opening our relationship. It was a Thursday evening, and we were sitting on our worn-out couch, plates of half-eaten pasta between us, the TV humming in the background. "What if we saw other people but still stayed together?" she said, poking at her food. The question hit me like a sack of bricks. I remember feeling my face flush, a mixture of anger and disbelief washing over me. "Absolutely not," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why would you even suggest that?" She shrugged, muttering something about exploring and not being stuck, but the damage was done. I couldn't unhear it. That night, I lay awake, a gnawing sense of betrayal twisting in my gut. Fast forward to Friday, and Jenna's suddenly eager to hit the bars. Not on her usual Saturday, but Friday. Alarm bells rang. She dressed up more than usual, a tight dress and heels, makeup done just so. "Just meeting the girls," she said, avoiding my eyes. Something was off. The trust I had was hanging by a thread. So, I made a decision I never thought I'd make. I decided to follow her. She didn't notice me as I slipped into the bar a few minutes after her. The place was crowded, dimly lit, the air filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. I found a spot where I could watch without being seen. It didn't take long before I saw her, leaning close to some guy I'd never seen before. Laughter too loud, touches too frequent. My heart sank. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Evidence. I needed evidence. Hours passed, and I watched as they left together, stumbling slightly. I followed at a distance, heart heavy. Eventually, I lost them in the crowd. That was enough for me. I went home, a storm of emotions brewing inside. The house was dark when I got back, the silence a stark contrast to the turmoil in my head. I waited. Around 2 a.m., Jenna came home, the smell of alcohol and perfume trailing her. She was surprised to see me up, sitting in the dark living room. "What are you doing awake?" she slurred, trying to steady herself. "We need to talk," I said, my voice calm but carrying a weight that filled the room. The air felt heavy, charged with an anticipation of the confrontation that was about to unfold. Jenna looked up, her expression shifting from confusion to concern as she noticed the serious tone in my voice. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I tapped on the screen, bringing up the video that would change everything. I showed her the video. For a moment, there was silence, a stunned silence that seemed to stretch on forever. Her face went pale as the reality of what she was seeing sunk in. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, her shock turned to anger, her cheeks flushing a deep red. "How dare you follow me?" she yelled, her voice filled with indignation and disbelief. She took a swing at me, fueled by a mix of betrayal and rage. I dodged, keeping my phone up, recording everything. The room spun with a chaotic energy, the tension between us crackling like static. "Why, Jenna? Why do this?" I asked, my voice breaking. The pain was raw, a gaping wound that refused to heal. It wasn't just the act of infidelity that hurt. It was the shattering of trust, the dismantling of a partnership I thought was solid. She hurled insults, each word like a dagger aimed straight at my heart. She hit me a few more times, each blow a punctuation to our failing marriage, a sign of how far we had fallen from the love we once shared. Despite the chaos, despite the pain, I stood my ground, recording, determined to capture the truth of this moment. But then, it became too much. The physical assaults, the verbal attacks, it all compounded into a torrent of anguish. When she hit me again, something inside me snapped. It was a moment of clarity amidst the storm. I couldn't allow this to continue. Couldn't let this cycle of hurt go on. I called the cops, my voice steady as I reported the assault. They arrived quickly, their presence a stark reminder of how far things had spiraled out of control. Jenna's protests and tears painted a tragic picture as they took her away. She looked back at me, her eyes a tumultuous sea of emotions, and in that moment, I felt a profound sadness. It was the end of an era, the closing of a chapter that had started with so much hope and love. Sitting alone in the aftermath, the silence of the house was deafening. The walls seemed to echo with the remnants of our life together, each memory a ghost that lingered in the corners. I replayed the night over in my mind, each moment a link in the chain that had led to this point. The sadness was overwhelming, a deep, cavernous ache that seemed to consume everything. Yet, amidst the turmoil, there was a sliver of relief. It was over. The lie we had been living, the facade of a happy marriage, had been stripped away, leaving behind the stark reality of our situation. It was a painful truth, but a necessary one. Now, it was time to rebuild, to find a way to move forward from the ruins of what was once us. Sitting alone in our now eerily quiet house, I reflected on everything. My marriage was over, not just because Jenna had cheated, but because she had shattered the trust and respect that had taken years to build. It was a painful realization, but one that was necessary for me to move on. This isn't a story of victory or joy. It's a story of loss and learning. I never wanted it to end this way, but I also couldn't live a lie. To anyone going through something similar, know you're not alone. It's okay to stand up for what you believe is right, even if it means walking away from someone you once loved. Update. Hey, it's me again. Some of you might remember my post from a few months back about my now ex-wife, Jenna, and the whole cheating debacle that ended with her getting arrested for hitting me while drunk. Well, a lot has happened since then, and I figured I'd give an update, especially since so many of you reached out with advice and support. We ended up going to court over the whole thing. Honestly, the idea of it was draining. Seeing Jenna again, this time across a courtroom, was surreal. She looked smaller somehow, less like the person I married and more like a stranger with a shared history. Her family was there, and mine too. The air was thick with disappointment and unsaid words. When it came to her charges for the assault, I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yes, she hit me, and yes, it was on video. But the thought of her serving a long sentence didn't sit right with me. It was a drunken mistake, a series of them, really. So, when asked about my stance, I told the judge, I don't want her life ruined over this. It felt like the right thing to say, even if part of me wondered if I was too soft. The judge ended up sentencing her to a short stint, way less than what could have been. Part of me felt relief, another part, anger. It's complicated. Jenna's lawyer managed to argue down to minimal time, citing it as a one-off incident exacerbated by alcohol. She also got mandated therapy, which I hope does her some good. The divorce proceedings were straightforward, surprisingly. No alimony. The house went to me, along with most of our shared assets. Jenna didn't fight much on that front. Maybe guilt, maybe resignation, who knows? When it was all said and done, we walked out of the courthouse, our paths diverging more definitively than they had when she left that night to the bar. Now, I'm living the single life. It's been an adjustment, living in our house alone. The silence can be deafening. I've taken to redecorating, trying to make it feel more like mine and less like ours. I've also started going out more, reconnecting with old friends, and even made a few new ones. They've been my lifeline, honestly. Dating? Haven't quite gotten there yet. The thought crosses my mind now and then, but I'm taking it slow. Jumping back into the dating pool feels daunting. I've been out of the game for so long, and the idea of opening up to someone new, trusting again, it's a lot. But I'm not closing the door on the idea. Just giving myself time to heal and figure out what I want. To those who've been through something similar, how did you know you were ready to start dating again? Any advice for getting back out there? It feels like a whole new world, and I'm standing on the threshold, unsure of my next step. Thanks again for all the support. This community has been a beacon during some of my darkest days. Here's to moving forward, whatever that may look like. That sucks, man. Good on you, though, for keeping calm and alerting the police when things got physical. Stay strong. Anyways, let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.